Hey, Chad. Pinky here, of Pinky and the Brain, the smarter one, if you don't mind saying so. I love listening to the GeekCast Radio Network. Narf.
Today on Weekend at the Movies, we talk about yet another new member of the Beauty and the Beast cast, the possibility of another superhero movie universe, every Robin Hood lover's wet dream, and in our main attraction, we give you our second actor spotlight for the one and only Harrison Ford. All that and more coming up on Weekend at the Movies. That's right, it's another episode of Weekend at the Movies. Thanks for joining us. I am one of your hosts, Optimus Solo, and joining me, as I guess always these days, which is awesome, Movie Revolt Dan. Hello.
Hey man, how's it going?
Not too bad. We both have successfully survived our Florida vacations, and we're back to the norm, I guess.
Yeah. It's nice to leave from nice weather and come back to nice weather as the spring has finally started in my area, which is great.
Yeah, the spring had kind of started in my area right before I left, and then we had like a little cold spell this week, so I got back from the plane and I did the classic tourist thing where I did have jeans on the flight, but I also just had a T-shirt,
nice.
And so we landed and it was not T-shirt weather, so it was freezing for a little bit, but I've readjusted, so we're good to go. So yeah, Dan got to spend some time in Miami. I was spending some time in Tampa and a tiny bit of time in Orlando. And as fate would have it, apparently it was podcasting Florida vacation month for movies, because JD from In Session Film was in Disney in Orlando the same time I was at Universal Studios in Orlando. And also got a cool opportunity and met up with myself and Amanda, met up with Hyro from the True Bromance podcast for a night in Tampa. So nice. That was a lot of fun. We met him, and he took us out for a night on the town in Tampa. We stopped at a few establishments and had a lot of fun. And apparently he had too much fun. I'm not trying to throw him out under the bus, but he mentioned it on his last episode of True Bromance that he doesn't remember all of the night, so I guess there's that. But just wanted to mention a couple things real quick before we get going, since I was in Universal, and definitely a great place to go if you're a movie fan. I'm sure Hollywood Studios and Disney is very much in the same vein, but there is so many cool things for movie lovers. And I'm not just talking about like the general actual rides and kind of the interactive adventures that you can go on based on the movies, but there's a lot of other cool things too that you can see. We actually went to like a little show that was like I think it was called the movie horror magic or something like that, where they kind of went into the kind of, it was like a little show with some acting going on, but they were kind of going behind the scenes of different things they do for horror films, like with the knives and the blood and the, kind of went through the different stages of makeup and stuff from way back in like the old Universal monster movies, through more modern stuff with a little CGI and some other things. So I mean, stuff like that was pretty interesting, and just a lot of little things that are really cool. They had a lot of like replicas or maybe even real things from movies that you could see and you could look at, especially in that horror thing. They had a lot of the different, like a mask from Predator and different makeup things that were used. So I mean, a lot of cool stuff there. And as a weird coincidence, earlier in the vacation we were in south of Tampa, just hanging out with some family and whatnot, and we went to a local restaurant and called the Fishery, and Amanda really wanted to try some alligator, so she got some gator bites. And as we were leaving the restaurant, we walked around because they wanted us to get a picture in front of the restaurant. And as we were kind of going down the back way around the restaurant, there's this big like wall plaque thing that had pictures of Denzel Washington and stuff. And I'm like, why is there like a big shrine to Denzel Washington going on? And I'm starting to look closer, and the movie Out of Time was actually filmed. Part of it was filmed at that restaurant.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, oh, and, we'd both seen the movie, and there's literally pictures of them in like the areas that we were just at, and I was like, oh, that's kind of weird, and pretty cool. So we had to stop and take some pictures of that as it all kind of came together. So definitely a fun trip for us. Like I said, I would highly suggest going to Universal if you're a movie fan. I'm not a roller coaster person, but there's plenty. 90% of the rides aren't that extreme, so even people that don't do roller coasters can handle them. So that was a lot of fun. All right, so getting into it like we normally do, we'll take a look at the box office from last week. And as we kind of predicted a while back, it was going to be a good 2, 3, 4 weeks until something would challenge Furious 7. And that, of course, has not happened yet because Avengers is still about a week away or so. So Furious 7 still at the number 1 spot, brought in another $29 million. Not that it needed any more money. A couple new films came in at the 2 and the 3 spots. We have, even though it has a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes, Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 brought in $23 million for the second place. Unfriended came in third with $15 million. There must be a lot of younger people going to that. The animated film Home dropped from the second spot down to the 4th spot with $10 more. And The Longest Ride coming in 5th with $7 million. Obviously, no surprises that Furious 7 is at the top, but the rest of the top 5 surprised you at all, Dan?
I'm actually surprised Paul Blart Mall Cop made as much as it did. I mean, $23 million is not a huge amount, but it's considering a 0%. It's almost an accomplishment to actually to have that because it's so rare.
Not one person has written a good review of that film.
It seems almost impossible, but yeah, I don't know. Like,
are you surprised that Unfriended did that well?
15? Not really. I think it probably, like you said, it's probably like 80% of that audience are teenagers. I could see that. It's got to be the worst name in the history of movies, but it's better than its original title, which was like Cybernatural was its original title. Geez. So and then changed it to Unfriended, and I'm like, it might be better. I don't know, but it's not. I was more surprised that had like a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. That was more surprising to me.
Right. And just to correct myself, I guess Paul Blart it had 0 for a long time. It's currently at 2.
Oh, it's
2%. Somebody
had to ruin it.
Wanted to. Yeah, somebody just that somebody that just did that. They're like, oh, I'm going to be the person that makes it so it's not at 0.
They owed Kevin James a favor.
Right. But yeah, to mention the other ones, the new ones, just to give the Rotten Tomatoes stats, Unfriended is sitting at 61%, Paul Blart at 2%, and True Story, which was another new one, is sitting at 47%. I think those are all the main new ones, Paul Blart, Unfriended, and True Story. So that's what the Rotten Tomatoes numbers are looking at. I know Child 44 was released in a couple places. That actually only has a 25%.
Which is very disappointing to me, because I had kind of hoped for that, but that's not a good sign.
The only other one that I didn't get to mention last week, because it seems like it's being very selective where it's being released at, was the one that I never can say right.
Ex Machina?
Yes. That's actually certified fresh right now at 89%.
Yeah. That's actually finally been released in my area, so I'm hopefully we'll see that this weekend.
It was released. It's released tomorrow in our area, too, so I'm definitely looking forward to actually having a chance to go see that. So, as far as the yearly box office, since we haven't talked about it in at least a week or two, no surprises there. Furious 7 is at the top spot currently, $300 million. Dan, when we did our box office prediction, I had Furious 7 coming in at 8th overall for the year. You had it coming in 7th. Did we underestimate it?
Maybe, but there's still a lot coming out. So,
is it crazy that we're talking about a film that has already had over $300 million, and we're both still thinking that it might come in 7th or 8th?
Yeah, it's already made $1 billion, so maybe quite a little bit. It's probably going to be in the top 5, but you still have Star Wars, Hunger Games, Age of Ultron, Avengers. A lot of big Pixar movies coming out. So it might be.
It's going to be an interesting race this year. I mean, obviously we probably know the top 2, but it's going to be crazy to see where some of these movies end up at. we talk about, when we do the box office thing that, usually about 10, anywhere from 8 to 12 films do over 200. We're going to have half of that do over 300 this year. So that's kind of crazy. Cinderella is still sitting at the number 2 spot with 187. 50 Shades of Grey with 165. SpongeBob 161. Home 144. Kingsman 125. And Insurgent 121. So those are the 7 that are over the 100 million mark. Anything else you wanted to bring up about the box office, sir?
No, I got nothing else.
All right. Well, let's get into our movie news for today. We're going to give you another edition of Thumbs Up, Thumbs Down. We have 10 different things that we're going to talk about. So we'll get to those right now. And the first one, Dan, there was just news here recently that we are going to be getting a Spider-Man animated film being released soon, and that the people behind it are, of course, none other than the people that were behind the Lego movie. The whole idea of a Spider-Man animated film or a new one being released to theaters, thumbs up or thumbs down?
I actually will go with thumbs up on that. I think it's an intriguing idea. Spider-Man and animation tend to go pretty well together, and getting the guys who made Lego movies is a good start. So to me, it's looking good. I kind of like that idea, so I'll go thumbs up.
And they definitely have not. They definitely had a pretty good year last year.
Yeah.
Miller and Lord with the Jump Street and with the Lego Movie, etc. Now this is again pretty far into the future. This is a movie that is set to be released in 2018. So we're way off in the distance. But I just like the idea that it's something that's going to be released to theaters.
Yeah.
Because that's not really something that DC or Marvel has done much of in the animated realm.
No, it's been mostly direct to DVD, and Marvel has not fared very well in that medium that much. Direct to DVD animated films, DC's done a little bit better, though they've been kind of on a downtick recently. But yeah, I think what's the last time we got a superhero animated film with Batman? The one in the 90s from the animated series. I can't think of its name. Mask of the Phantasm.
And that's been a long time. So I'd be interested to see how an animated comic book film does. I would suspect that it would do pretty well. And of course, there's going to be questions on if they do try to tie in the animated film plot story or whatever to everything else that they're doing. I don't know if that's necessary or not, but it's definitely something that people will be interested in to see if there is any tie-ins. Because, a lot of other things have tried to do that, whether it be Transformers, Star Wars, or et cetera, where they've had like an animated property, whether it be movie or a TV series, where they try to tie that into the overall universe. So we'll have to see what happens with that. But I'm going to go with you on this one. I'm going to say thumbs up. I like the idea of a theater release of an animated comic book film, and I like the idea of Miller and Lord being connected to it. So 2 thumbs up for us about the animated Spider-Man film. Next up, let's talk about, since we're on the topic of Spider-Man, there was a news story that supposedly gave a short list of actors that were in contention to be the next Spider-Man. We're just going to give the names out that they put out in this list, which is according to The Wrap, and just based on this group of names, we'll say thumbs up or thumbs down to the direction that they possibly would be going for this. First would be Nat Wolff from The Fault in Our Stars, Asa Butterfield from Ender's Game, Liam James from The Way, Way Back, Tom Holland from The Impossible, and Timothy Chalamet. We're going to go with Chalamet on that. TV's Homeland. That's apparently the short list, or at least the direction that they're looking. I know there's been a lot of talk about the possible Spider-Man casting. Dan, thumbs up or thumbs down to this group of names and maybe the direction they're headed here?
Well, some of them I'm not all too familiar with. Asa Butterfield, I would say, is one I'm thumbs down on. Not that he's a bad actor. I don't see him in the role of Spider-Man. But the kid that was from Way, Way Back, I think I see that. Actually, I feel like that might be a good choice. So I guess thumb in the middle, because I'm kind of some of the names I'm liking, some of them I'm indifferent on, and some of them I don't like, I guess. So I'm going to go middle of the road on that one.
I can see that. A lot of these names, even though I've seen The Way Back and The Fault in Our Stars, it's not like those actors. Most of those actors are not big name actors, so a lot of people would be kind of unfamiliar with them. So I'm kind of thumbs up to the idea of casting somebody that's not going to be so like mainstream known.
Yeah.
Or as well known. I have no problem with that. But it's not like any of these names are just jumping off the page at me that I'm going to get excited about.
I mean, I like the idea that they're going for the more teenage Peter Parker. I do like that. I think it would make an interesting dynamic with the Avengers if he's more of a teenager. So that I do thumbs up with. I don't have a strong enough opinion for a lot of those actors to really give
right. That's kind of how I am. And, of course, everybody, I guess, could breathe a sigh of relief since they did release the idea that this will not be an origin story.
Yes, thank God.
Which I think all of us are like, thank God, including myself. But then, in the same breath, I'm thinking they're casting a younger person. So how... You know, it seems you're casting like the younger version of Peter Parker. How do you avoid the origin story when you're going younger?
I guess it'd just be that it's established, or you can you can touch upon it, but not
focus on it.
Yeah, like think about like Batman 1989, which didn't have an origin of Batman. It kind of hinted at it, but it was not a big element of it. Or you can just do it in a conversation or something, or like one scene instead of making it the entire movie.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm with you, kind of a neutral thumb there. No opinion too strongly one way or the other. So moving on to a couple casting news items. Like I said in the teaser at the beginning, seems like every week they must have this timed. So every 7 days they're releasing a new name for the cast of the live-action Beauty and the Beast. I swear we've talked about this at least 5 shows in a row. So the next name that is on the list that has been revealed is none other than Ewan McGregor, who apparently will be playing Lumiere. So added to a very crowded bunch now with Emma Thompson, Emma Watson, I don't want to get my Emmas confused, Kevin Kline, Ian McKellen, Luke Evans, Dan Stevens, Josh Gad, and, of course, a couple others, and now Ewan McGregor. So, thumbs up or thumbs down to Ewan McGregor playing Lumiere?
I think that makes sense, actually. I think he kind of has that personality. I'm trying to think of a role where I feel like it's similar to him doing that. Something popped in my head, but it came and went. But, yeah, I'll go thumbs up. I like Ewan McGregor a lot, so I'd be interested in seeing him in that role. I guess, is it going to be a voice? Like, I'm just curious how that's going to work exactly.
Yeah.
Like a voice actor or motion capture, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know how they're pulling this all off. They got a ton of great names connected. And also, of course, if you remember the casting that Ian McKellen is playing Cogsworth. So that would, as the article kind of points out, that would leave it to be that it's probably going to be, in those scenes, Ewan McGregor and Ian McKellen playing off of each other. Which is a combination I don't know if that's been done before, but that makes me interested to see how they interact with each other. But I'm with you. I'm kind of waiting to see what exactly they're doing with this as far as how live is the live action and how CG or motion capture or whatever else they're going to do. But yeah, I'm thumbs up to Ewan McGregor. I'm a big fan of his, so add him to the list. It's a interesting cast so far, that's for sure. Another casting moment that we talked about briefly in last a couple weeks ago episode when Amanda was with me, we brought up the idea of Daniel Radcliffe being involved in a Grand Theft Auto film. And of course, during that episode, we were both questioning if anybody would really be interested in this project whatsoever. The Grand Theft Auto drama, the behind-the-scenes true story of the creators of Grand Theft Auto, or whatever you want to call this. But there's another article this week that Bill Paxton apparently is going to be joining the casting as well. So we got Bill Paxton, Daniel Radcliffe. Is that enough to get you interested in the outlaw story of Grand Theft Auto, Dan?
I like Bill Paxton, but he's been in some bad movies too, so I don't know. it's an odd choice, but I think you can technically make a good movie out of anything in some ways. So yeah, that's kind of I don't know. It's strange, but yeah.
I just can't picture fans of Grand Theft Auto being interested in this lawyer / creator drama.
Yeah, it does seem like it's them trying to just capitalize on the name of that. Like, is it really an interesting story, or is it just because it involves this property? That I don't know. But I mean, I would think the same thing with like Facebook. Like, why would they make a movie about Facebook and then end up being a movie I really love? So, but that's
true.
So it's possible, but I don't know. We'll see.
I think I'm thumbs down on this one. I nothing against Bill Paxton, but I just can't get behind this yet. Maybe, like I said, maybe it'll be something like we didn't expect, like with The Social Network or something like that. But I just think it's a weird pairing of this video game and the content that it consists of. But I mean, I guess it makes sense because a lot of people are definitely against it and against what it's trying to prove. So maybe it'll touch on some cool censor / that type of ideas, generation clashing. So there's potential there. I'm not huge on Daniel Radcliffe, so I need more than Paxton to get me excited about this one. So thumbs down for me. Did you give a thumb any direction on that one?
Yeah, I'll say thumbs up for the most part. I don't know. I think there's potential. I guess I'll say that. I've enjoyed Radcliffe in the Harry Potter films, and I thought he was pretty good in Women in Black. Horns led a lot to be expected, but I think it was more than just him. So I don't know.
Right.
And he has done some theater acting too, so I think he has a career ahead of him. So I think there's enough there for me to go thumbs up.
All right. And what we always like to do is connect everything here with our main attraction, so that we have multiple connections to our main attraction, even in the news here, because one of the news items is about a casting potential or possibility for Blade Runner 2, which of course will star our main attraction focus Harrison Ford, and the news story is about the possibility that Ryan Gosling will star alongside Harrison Ford. Blade Runner 2, Harrison Ford, Ryan Gosling. Thumbs up or thumbs down, Dan?
Oh, man, that one's kind of tough because I feel like there's been a lot of comparison between Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford, and for different reasons. Like, people have kind of made connections with those two. Like, if there was ever an Indiana Jones, would it, be him? So I could see that, but I don't know. The idea of Blade Runner 2 gives me a thumb. I just got to go thumbs down on it. I just don't think it's a good idea. And I like Ryan Gosling, but I feel like it's still not enough. I don't know. I think it's not going to work out, so I'll go thumbs down.
Okay. Also to note that they also have released that Denis Villeneuve, I think that's how you say his name, the director from Prisoners, and who has a film this year called Sicario, I believe that's how you say that, is signed on for the director's chair for Blade Runner 2 as well.
I mean, yeah. So, I mean, he's got a good track record, but I don't know.
I'm somewhat intrigued by the combination of the director, Ryan Gosling, Harrison Ford. I would be more intrigued if it was a different movie. Like if it was just some movie that I knew nothing about. And I was like, oh, you got Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford in some type of science fiction film directed by this guy. I'd be like, okay, I'm on board. Blade Runner 2? I'm kind of with you on that. I'm a little torn on getting excited over something that could just totally not live up to its predecessor. I mean, I don't know if there's a possible way to live up to Blade Runner. I don't know. I'm kind of with you. I'm going to go thumbs down on this one, even though I like the people involved. I don't think this project is necessary. As far as a casting direction, Matthew Vaughn, who obviously has been talked about a lot this year with his film Kingsman, he is being eyed to direct a film about Flash Gordon. Flash Gordon and Matthew Vaughn, do they make a good pair, Dan? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
I gotta say, I really don't know because I've never really watched Flash Gordon, so it's not I don't have much knowledge of it. Honestly, the most knowledge I have of Flash Gordon is from watching Ted, and they make a lot of reference to it. But I like Matthew Vaughn, and I do think he could do some interesting things with the idea with Flash Gordon, which was it was serious but was kind of become so bad it's good type of territory. So maybe kind of almost like a Kick-Ass style in that way, more satirical. in some instances. So I've loved everything Vaughn has done, so I'll go thumbs up.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, even though there was Flash Gordon cartoons and this, that, and the other when I was growing up, but it was just never a property that I got interested in. So I really know, outside of like the names of some of the characters and kind of what they look like, I don't really know much about the stories or the, kind of the mythos of Flash Gordon. So I can't really comment too much about that. But on the very limited knowledge I have of Flash Gordon, I'm all for Matthew Vaughn taking on, because maybe he'll make that something that I could be interested in finally after all these years and, revisit that. So, I liked what Matthew Vaughn did with Kingsman, so why not do Flash Gordon? I'm going to give that one a thumbs up as well. And in our last bit of casting news, and I have to bring this up because this could mean potential points for me finally in our Fantasy Film League. Idris Elba, according to Simon Pegg, is definitely set to star in Star Trek 3, and according to Simon Pegg, in a, quote, kick-arse role. I don't know.
Doesn't say major role, though, so that's the question, right?
That's true. It's got to be major. Is kick-arse good enough for major? A few weeks ago it was said that he was a possible main villain. So he didn't say that he's going to be the main villain, but we can still kind of hope that that's the thing. At least I can hope that that's the thing. So, I love the idea of Idris Elba being involved in any way, shape, or form in any big movie, so I have to give this a thumbs up. What about you? Do you think he's a fit for the Star Trek universe?
That's interesting. I mean, yeah, I guess so. I mean, he fit into the Pacific Rim universe, which is much different, I would say. But, yeah, I think so. I would love to see him play a Star Trek villain. That's, I think, would be something new. Something completely different, at least for the movies wise. So, and he's a great actor, right. So that'd be kind of cool. I think that would be weird seeing him playing like a Klingon, though.
That's what I was going to say. I would actually somehow love to see them somehow make him a Klingon.
He's such a tall guy. I think it might work. Right. He would tower over everybody.
Yeah, so he definitely has the impressive size and voice to do something like that, and kind of definitely towers over everybody. So I could definitely see him doing that, much more than I could see him doing a Ferengi or a Romulan or something like that. So I have to wait and see what happens with Idris Elba. But of course, as an Idris Elba fantasy owner, I'm all for him being in every movie. I saved that's it for the casting news, but I saved two other pieces of news for last. I figured they were kind of the bigger pieces of news that at least I've seen in the last little bit. I don't know if they're going to have positive reactions, but they're definitely worth talking about. And I have to read this one because it's going to take a second to digest this headline. But the first one here is, quote, John Wick directors to adapt Bloodshot comic for Sony's new superhero movieverse. I'll give you a second to try to digest what I just said here. But apparently Sony is now going to try to join the ranks of Marvel and DC by creating their own movie universe based on superheroes. And they're going to start with a film based on the Bloodshot comic, and they have the directors from John Wick on board for that. So just to give a little bit more information here, the studio's overall plan is to release Bloodshot in 2017, which is a Valiant Entertainment title, or an adaptation of that, and then they're going to do another Valiant title, Harbinger, sometime after 2017. Then both films will receive a sequel, and then the fifth film will be called Harbinger Wars, which will tie everything together. Dan, reaction, thumbs up or thumbs down to Sony trying to create their own superhero movieverse?
Oh, Sony. You try so hard, don't you? It's really... I've not read a lot of Valiant stuff. I have heard good things about it, which is interesting, because I know a big thing for them is like how their universe works and how it tends to not like run together as much or something like that. I could be mistaken. So I find that interesting. That's what they're going with. It does feel like they're grasping at straws a little bit. I don't know. Like, I don't really have faith in Sony with things that they've done so far. So, I don't know. I'm gonna go thumbs down just because it just feels like them just trying to jump on the bandwagon a little bit too late.
Currently, they also, besides having the directors from John Wick, as far as people working on the screenplay, the names being thrown out here are Jeff Wadlow from Kick-Ass 2, Eric Hesserer, I don't know if that's how you say it, Heiserer from 2011's film The Thing, and Matthew Vaughn, who we just talked about, apparently are all kind of teaming up on the screenplay. So, I mean, maybe that would interest a few more people, but I'm kind of with you. I don't necessarily trust Sony in trying to do whatever they're trying to do here.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about superhero fatigue, or people have brought it up, is it going to eventually hit a wall, or are people going to lose interest, etc.? And that's talking about just with Marvel and DC doing everything that they're doing. I don't know if there's really room for another player in that whole genre.
Yeah.
So
I feel there's also not much fanfare or interest in this. It doesn't seem like it's something that you're getting. It's going to have the effect that Sony's hoping for. I don't think. I think
right.
Sony's thinking, everyone likes universes, but it's like part of that is having characters people really care about, and some people care about those valiant characters, but it's such a small, it's a small group of comic book fans. They're already a small group, People like the Avengers or Superman, Batman, those are names that go beyond just comic books, where those characters really don't. So I don't think they're going to get the attention they think they are.
And this news definitely didn't set Twitter or anything on fire.
No.
People going crazy about it. And I think you said something interesting there about the whole people love universes or don't love universes, because I think that's kind of the biggest mistake people are making. They're seeing the success of Marvel or some of these other things, like even maybe like a Fast and the Furious, even though it's not necessarily a universe, as it is just like a Bond series of films or something like that. But everybody seems to be trying to jump on board and creating all these universes, and I don't know that they're actually understanding why the universes that have worked, why they've worked, which you said, it has to deal with characters and stories and stuff like that. And even thinking back to what Ghostbusters is doing now, what Sony's trying to do with this. We talked about the whole plan for this King Arthur thing, where there was going to be 75 films based on King Arthur. I think I'm with you. It's not just about creating a universe. I mean, it's cool. It's a cool aspect, but you have to have the foundation for that universe.
Yeah, it's got to be characters you care about, and you could do that with a movie even if we don't know those characters. It's just that. It just seems like the fact that Sony's like, hey, we're creating a universe, and not, hey, we're creating good movies. It just seems like they're just trying to do what DC did and make a universe in one movie just to do it.
Right. So that's a double, 2 thumbs down for that one. And I saved the best for last. This has got to be the most absurd news story about films that I've ever brought up, or any of us have ever brought up here on our Weekend at the Movies show. We've talked a lot in recent years about 2 studios or 2 companies kind of going head-to-head with certain movies. Originally it was planned for there to be 2 Jobs movies that were going to be much closer in release than they're ending up to be. Steve Jobs is what I'm talking about. We had our 2 Hercules films last year. We talked about 2, Peter Pan films.
2 Jungle Book movies, I believe.
Or 2 Jungle Book films. So we've talked about a lot about, 2 different studios kind of using the same concept, same story premise, and going up against each other or releasing films in the same year, whether it was planned or not. I didn't think we would ever be talking about 4 movie studios doing such a thing. So 4 rival Robin Hood movies all got the green light in Hollywood here, and this is something to try to dissect here. So the studios being, and we're not just talking about just random, second-rate or third-rate studios or lower budget things or anything like that. We're talking about Warner Brothers, Sony, Lionsgate, and Disney. All have given green light to Robin Hood Productions. All right, let me try to break this down a little bit before we start reacting here, to try to give you what each one's doing. So, Warner Brothers is going to have a version scripted by the Gangster Squad and Aquaman writer Will Beall, and produced by the pair behind the Lego Movie. All right, doesn't really say much about what that version is going to be. Lionsgate is preparing Robin Hood Origins, described as an edgier take on the story, which adopts a similar tone to the How It All Began style of Batman Begins.
There's so much wrong with that, what you just said.
The script is by Joby Harold, who is working with Guy Ritchie on a new 6-film King Arthur franchise. So maybe we're creating a universe there where King Arthur and Robin.
Don't even say that. It's so going to happen. Because it's like Robin Hood and King Arthur. Oh, my God, that's going to be it.
All right. So that's Lionsgate. Disney, their hopes are pinned on Nottingham and Hood, according to this article, a swashbuckling, family-friendly adventure film in the vein of Pirates of the Caribbean. This is from writer Brandon Barker, who sold his script to Disney for apparently 6 figures. This is interesting. He sold his script to Disney for a 6-figure fee after submitting it to a web service which rates screenplays and refers the best ones to industry insiders. So that's an interesting... I didn't realize that happened. Disney is seeking to turn Robin Hood into an adventure franchise that fits its global brand, obviously, because they need more of those. And then lastly, we have Sony, which you thought the Lionsgate one sounded ridiculous, huh?
Oh, no.
So, leave it to Sony to one-up that. A radical reinterpretation of the legend. Last year it bought a Robin Hood pitch for $1 million from Corey Goodman and Jeremy Lott, which sees Robin, Little John, Friar Tuck, and Will Scarlet as an Avengers-style team of heroes from the Middle Ages. Their story, titled simply Hood, has been described as a high-action Fast and Furious meets Mission Impossible-style reinvention.
These are not real, right? Like, these can't be... It feels like a Saturday Night Live sketch, right? Where it's like...
This feels like an April Fool's joke.
It does. I cannot do, like, 2 big thumbs down for all... It just seems...
All 4?
Oh, my God. It is...
I was going to give you a chance to thumbs up and thumbs down each one.
I'm going to go 4. I'm sorry. None of them. I don't... No, like, where is these coming from? It feels like it's so... It just... What these kind of do, it just shows you the ridiculousness of each studio in their own way. The one that does, the ridiculous Pirates of the Caribbean films and trying to redo that, or redoing the Fast... It just... No.
This is everything that's wrong with Hollywood.
It is a microcosm of everything that's wrong.
But seriously, look, I mean... They're all trying to capitalize on stuff without being original whatsoever. They're all starting with a story that we already know and characters we already know. So they're like, we'll bypass the idea of having to, make these characters interesting to people. We'll just use stuff that they already know. But then we're going to completely do what's popular today. One's going the superhero route. One's going the dark and gritty Batman Begins Dark Knight route. One's trying to just do random fun that doesn't matter, like Pirates of the Caribbean. I guess the only one that hasn't, literally said something stupid, I guess, is Warner Brothers.
Give them time.
I mean, I like Robin Hood as a character. I like the story. I like the mythology of Robin Hood. But come on, look at these. Look at Robin Hood Origins, Nottingham and Hood, and just plain Hood.
I mean, with 4 of these movies, and not one of them was doing a sequel to Prince of Thieves. Like, not one. Not one. You could do, a Dark Knight Returns type of situation where, he's coming back for one last hurrah or something like that.
Oh, and just to add some here, for the Sony one, Jerry Bruckheimer is...
there you go.
Is connected.
To...
Like I said, has there been a more absurd... movie news story that we've ever talked about?
I think the Hood one has got to be the worst, though. It's like Fast and Furious Mission Impossible in the Middle Ages. No, that doesn't work at all.
The only thing that's worse than that is if they do somehow try to, if Lionsgate does somehow try to combine Robin Hood and King Arthur.
Which, oh my God. And then I don't know what else they would throw in there. There's got to be some other type of Aladdin, maybe. I don't know.
Right. Just to create a whole universe of things that have no connection to each other whatsoever. Be like, kids know this character, and they also know this character. We'll put them in the same movie. Jeez. So yeah, that's just all kinds of bad, all kinds of crazy, and isn't there somebody don't they have like insiders or something? Don't they know that they're all doing this at the same time? Didn't somebody be like, wait a second, guys, like 3 other studios are doing this. Maybe it's not a good time.
I think that's partially it too. Is like they see other studios are doing it, so then they also do it too. It's like, oh, they got a Robin Hood movie in the works, so now we have to have one too. It's like,
see, this is the one thing. As much as I've probably complained in the past about what Marvel allowed to happen when everything kind of got splintered off and Sony owns this and Fox owns this or whatever had happened, like. This almost makes me thankful that certain properties are owned and not able to be touched by other people. But goodness gracious, I mean, you guys, listeners, will have to let us know. Maybe we're off base. Maybe one of these will be fantastic. But I don't know. Is there anybody that's really interested on having 4 Robin Hood films in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I don't know. Good luck with that.
All right, so that's a thumbs down for both of us. All the way across the board. I love Robin Hood, but that's ridiculous. Getting into, we're not going to have time to talk on all the trailers just for time constraints here, but there was a whole bunch of trailers that came out in the last 7 to 10 days. And obviously we didn't record an episode last week except for the update on the Fantasy League, but there's a whole bunch of stuff. So we'll have the links all in the website here and the webpage, and you can click on those and watch the different trailers. You can also let us know which ones you're most interested in. But just kind of going down the list here, there was a trailer for a film called Infinity, which is a Luke Hemsworth sci-fi movie. Is Luke Hemsworth related to any other famous Hemsworth?
Maybe. I don't know.
I didn't know. But interesting sci-fi flick for people that love science fiction. A couple different animated films that are definitely look interesting. The Little Prince with Marion... why can I never say her name?
Marion Cotillard?
Yes. And Jeff Bridges. Obviously, most people know the story about The Little Prince, so that's an intriguing one. There's also I believe this is the last animated film from Studio Ghibli. When Marnie was there.
I feel like they said that about like 14 different animated films about Studio Ghibli. This is the last one.
It still is working.
Yeah, it's like this is the last one. Nope, no, this one is.
So 2 different animated films that people might be interested in, and of course some big ones: Fantastic Four, another trailer for Mad Max, a second trailer, new trailer for Star Wars, the new trailer for Superman versus Batman, and a trailer for Ant-Man. So obviously those everybody's probably seen and everybody's talked about and heard lots of stuff about. So those are all there. The UK trailer for Mr. Holmes starring Ian McKellen. What else? We have Dope with Forrest Whitaker and Zoe Kravitz, a high school comedy-esque type film that looks somewhat interesting. The other ones we have out there, Learning to Drive, which is a Patricia Clarkson, Ben Kingsley romantic comedy. The only thing I have to say about that is please don't cost me any points, Ben Kingsley. I need every point I can get. For you horror fans, a film called The Gallows, which I did not watch the trailer for. I apologize. Suffragette, starring Meryl Streep and Carey Mulligan. Every Secret Thing, which was a creepy trailer. That film stars Diane Lane, Elizabeth Banks, and Dakota Fanning. I don't know if that's supposed to be based on a true story or not. I can't remember from seeing the trailer, but that's a creepy film about Dakota Fanning and another of her aged individuals who apparently kidnap or torture little children. It was a creepy trailer. That's all I can say. That's the only word that can come to mind is creepy. And then another trailer for a film called Results, starring Kobe Smulders and Guy Pearce. That was a unique... I can totally see Guy Pearce as the fitness instructor, yoga slash, like, what's the film about losing weight? Or what's the TV series about losing weight?
Biggest Loser? Yeah.
Yeah, like Guy Pearce fits that role so well, and I would have never pictured him as that, but he fits that perfectly. Love and Mercy, the Brian Wilson biopic, which I will say I watched that trailer. I'm a huge Beach Boys fan, and so far I'm all in. That seems like an interesting take that they're doing with the 2 different people playing Brian Wilson. One is the younger version and one is the older version. And so far I'm all in. biopics have a tendency to disappoint, but we'll see about that. And, of course, I don't want to forget a teaser trailer for Joe Dirt 2, Beautiful Loser.
There you go.
So, any trailers that really kind of blew your socks off or anything you want to mention about those?
Not necessarily blew my socks off, but the first one, or one of the first ones you mentioned with the sci-fi one with the one of the Hemsworth brothers maybe, that one looked kind of intriguing. It looked like Alien-esque in a way.
I agree.
So that I do look forward to. I did like the Fantastic Four trailer. There were some issues, not a big fan of the way Doctor Doom looked, but overall, I don't know. I still think that movie might actually be good. So.
All right, so definitely let us know your thoughts on which of those films you're interested in. I think that was a good selection of trailers. A lot of times we have 5 or 6 trailers and there's nothing that really catches my eye, but even if you take all those big, huge blockbuster ones out, I think a lot of those other films had at least some potential. I mean, they might disappoint, but there's definitely some stuff to take a look at and see if it's something that you might be interested in watching. So let us know your thoughts on that. And while you do that, and while we give you time to type away, you can listen to this commercial break, and we will be right back with our main attraction where we do our second actor spotlight. And like I said in the intro, it's all about Harrison Ford. So we're going to break down all the Harrison Ford, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we'll also give you a brief edition of what we've been watching. So we'll be right back after this break.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Greg.
This is Chuck.
And this is Dan. And we are Talking in Circles.
Because the world needs another podcast, we are here as GeekCast Radio's newest edition.
And as the title says, each week we get lost in conversation about a wide range of topics, including movies, comics, games, art, TV, and even occasionally sports.
We play games and discuss pivotal topics like who would win in a fight, the Kool-Aid Man or Tony the Tiger, and examine the hot-button issues of the world of geekdom.
We keep things fresh by taking timeless topics in new directions.
We are simply 3 friends having a fun time talking about life's most fascinating foibles.
Stay connected with us every Tuesday on iTunes or at geekcastradio.com.
On the Simplistic Reviews podcast, we talk movies. We talk TV. We talk.
Hello, Julie, what the heck are you doing?
Trying to make our spots sound more exciting by adding explosions.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could have got the point across with sound effects, not the real thing. Car.
Download the show on iTunes or at simplisticreviews.blogspot.com.
I'm sure your insurance company will cover that.
No, they won't.
No, they probably won't.
Now back to the show. Do you see how your patience paid off?
All right, thanks for sticking with us, and it is main attraction time, but before we get to our spotlight on Harrison Ford, we always like to talk about what films we've been watching over the last week, or for us it's been a little while since we recorded, so I'll let you start, Dan, because I know you've had a chance to see a few more films than I have with the vacation complications, so what's one of the films you've seen in the last little bit?
Well, I kind of got on an old school movie kick for some reason. I don't know why. Well, I kind of do. One thing I actually kind of realized is that I've, I don't know if you ever created a list of shame, movies that are well acclaimed that I haven't
thought about it.
Yeah, and I kind of did, but I went through the AFI Top 100, the Top 250 of IMDb, and the Sight and Sound poll as well, looking at movies that are kind of on each that I've yet to see or haven't seen in a long time. And one of the ones that was really high on a lot of those lists, it was, in the top 10 for AFI. It was, I think, 70-ish within Sight and Sound, and that's Lawrence of Arabia. It's a movie, actually, that I saw when I was younger a good deal, but it's been such a long time since I've watched it that I felt like it wouldn't be, I feel like saying I watched it would be kind of it would, I don't remember anything from it because it was such a long time ago. So I sat down and watched it. I'll be honest, I didn't watch it all in one sitting. It is 4 hours, and it's kind of hard to find 4 hours to sit down and watch a movie. But it is streaming on Amazon Prime, and I think Netflix too. I'm not sure, but so I did see it, and I gotta say, it was, when you have a movie like that that's built up as one of the greatest movies of all time, it's difficult for something to live up to that hype. But I gotta say, I don't know. Have you seen Lawrence of Arabia?
That is one that I have not seen. Actually, my mom and I at one point were trying to go through, kind of just as a mother-son bonding thing. We were going to go through a similar thing. We were going to go through the top 100 AFI list, just like you were talking about. Yeah. And that's one that was on our list, but we didn't quite get to it. And then, life kind of got in the way. But we did watch about probably half dozen to a dozen films that I hadn't seen, and I wish that was one of them that I had seen. But no, I haven't caught up with it yet.
And I gotta say, I kind of fall in line and feel like it is well deserving of its praise. I am a sucker for that old school, like, big Hollywood entertainment of that era, like those types of epics. I do like Ben-Hur. Ten Commandments is okay, but I don't know, something about it seems that I really like. But there's something a little bit, I think, that puts Lawrence of Arabia ahead of other films like Ten Commandments or Cleopatra or Ben-Hur, and there's just, I think a lot of it starts with the character of Lawrence and Peter O'Toole's performance and like the transformation you see of that character. Does that movie need to be 4 hours long? And I don't know. I think it doesn't feel like 4 hours as much as that might seem. It does feel long because but it doesn't feel like I felt like I was never bored, or I was always intrigued with what's going on, and just the scale of it. It's like, as cliche as it sounds, they don't make movies like that anymore. And I don't know. I would highly recommend it. I ended up really loving it, and it looks. I mean, obviously looks fantastic. It's one of the best shot films of all time, no matter what. That's like unquestionable. It's infamous for its cinematography, capturing a lot of those landscapes, just using that. Some of the historical accuracy is questionable, to say the least. But I don't know. It's just the scale of it and just the characters itself, and just seeing this progression in the story. It's rather remarkable, and to keep attention for that long. I don't know. The score too I don't know. It's a nearly perfect movie, I would say, which is kind of maybe hyperbole, but I do think I would say it's one of the best movies ever made that I've seen. So I still have to see a lot, like I mentioned, but I do think it's well deserving of its praise.
Well, I will definitely have to bump that one up a bit on my list of those AFI films to watch. All right, I will go quickly and then let you get back to talking, because I've actually only seen one film this week, due to the vacation timing of everything. So the one film I got to see, well, I should say, outside of finishing the Harry Potter series.
Oh, you finished it all. Nice.
Yes, we finished. Well, that's kind of a white lie. Maybe not a white lie. That's kind of a lie, because we have maybe 30 minutes left of the very last one that we didn't get in. So I saw all of it except for the very ending of the very last film. But that's the one I had seen most recently, so I do know how, I know what happens. And I'm kind of with you. I like the progression of what the films did over the whole series. And there's a lot more to chew on those later ones than it is, than the kid-friendly ones are at the beginning. Not saying that takes away from any of my enjoyment from those first couple, but there's definitely more to those final few. And outside of maybe 1.5 of the films, I thoroughly enjoyed all of them. So I still got to kind of work on my rankings of all of them, 1 through 7. 7 total films.
7 books and 8 movies? I don't remember.
I can't remember. I gotta get my when movies start breaking into parts, I lose track. So I gotta kind of pin down my final rankings of them all. But I would say overall it was an enjoyable experience, and it definitely helped because being at Universal and going through the different Harry Potter things, they did such an awesome job on that, and stuff is to the fine detail is so spot on for what the movie is. So it definitely increased the experience there. So I'll give a final ranking of that maybe in a blog post or something like that. But outside of that, the only film I was able to see is we made it to the theater one time real quick when we got back from vacation, and that was to see the new film, The True Story, starring James Franco and Jonah Hill. And that one was just released, so it was playing in one of the 2 theaters near us, and we figured we weren't even sure if that was going to be playing at all. So when we saw it, we thought we better jump on the chance before it disappeared. And I got to say, it was a pretty enjoyable film. I Amanda liked it, I think, maybe a touch more than I did. But it was more... It was one of those films that the film ends and you're not quite... At least for me, I wasn't quite sure how I felt about the film. I wasn't sure if I liked it, disliked it, or loved it. Like, I was really torn. Like, the performances, I think, are really good. Jonah Hill is playing a New York Times writer, and he basically eventually comes into contact with James Franco's character, who has been accused of these horrific crimes. He's been accused of killing his wife and his 3 very little kids. And at one point takes on Jonah Hill's identity, and that's kind of how they come into contact with each other. And then it becomes a movie where you basically have the two of them interacting a lot as Jonah Hill is trying to write a piece on James Franco's character, and kind of just the dynamic of kind of like, I don't know, I've seen a lot of people describe it as kind of cat and mouse, but who's pulling the strings and who's telling the truth, and whose motives or purposes are redeemable or not. And also stars Felicity Jones, who plays Jonah Hill's wife, and she was fantastic in it as well. I thought she was definitely a bright spot in the film. So it just kind of goes back and forth and trying to figure out if he actually did commit these crimes or if he didn't. And that's all I'll say on it, just so that people can kind of watch it and figure things out for themselves. But it was definitely an interesting take. I didn't know if I would buy the whole Jonah Hill, James Franco do a serious movie together. And overall, I think it was pretty successful. Like I said, it's getting kind of mixed reviews, so I'd be interested in hearing what a few people that we, like yourself, Dan, or JD, or the True Bromance guys, or whatever, the first-time watchers, to see what everybody else feels about it. But I'm still kind of digesting it and still trying to decide where it fits for me. I think if I was giving it a rating right now, I would probably be sitting at like a 3.5 maybe out of 5, right around that line. So definitely would be interested to hear what other people have to say about the true story, and as I figure out where that actually sits with me. But in a year that hasn't had a whole bunch of great films, it's still probably towards the top for me. And you didn't give a grade for Lawrence of Arabia. Would that be a 5?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I figured that's what it was, but just in case anybody tries to complain about us not giving our grades. So, all right, so what else have you seen?
Well, I did see one 2015 movie that I'll touch upon, and then touch upon the homework that I did go over as well. Okay. And I won't talk about it much because it's been out forever, and it's a movie that we talked about earlier that just made $1 billion, and that's Fast and Furious 7. I did see that. I actually saw that when I was in Miami because, why not? Because,
it seems like a good place to watch that.
Yeah. We wanted to get out of the sun for a little bit, so why not go see a 2.5-hour movie about cars exploding? So, I like a lot of people. Like I know you're not a fan of the franchise, and I wasn't for the biggest time. I thought the first movie was like a generic Point Break ripoff, and then it also led to a lot of idiots trying to replicate that movie after they watched it, which was always annoying. And
oh god,
yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, so that was, that was always college and high school people trying to be street racers. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. So that one, and the second one movie was god-awful. I'm not a fan of the third one either, and the fourth one I thought was just as bad. But I thought it did get better with the fifth one, in large part because of The Rock, and I like the sixth one too. And the seventh film kind of continues that trend. It is a soap opera with crazy car stunts, and it's there's a little bit of a self-parody in it. I think it kind of realizes what it is, and I think the overall a lot of the action I enjoy. I like some of the new additions that came on, and mostly Jason Statham and Tony Jaa. I thought they led to some cool action sequences in the beginning. There's a great fight with Jason Statham and The Rock, which is for me, the highlight. Though I did realize, though, it's probably not a good sign if I'm rooting for the villain at the end when, you have the big showdown with Vin Diesel and Jason Statham. I'm like, I'm kind of rooting for Jason Statham because I like him more. I don't know if that's a good thing. Like, probably shouldn't be rooting for the villain. But,
They messed up somewhere.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's fine. Like, I don't... it does seem... I don't know what they're going to do after this. I do think they handled the whole Paul Walker thing relatively well. It's kind of a touchy subject. I'm just curious how it's going to work in, like, I don't know, 10 years from now watching this movie and looking at the ending. It's going to be kind of odd, but I don't know. I did like it. I do think the plot doesn't make any sense because they're trying to find Jason Statham's character. They're trying to get this, like, tool to do that, but his character keeps showing up. And instead of going after him, they're going after the tool to find him. But it's like, the guy's right there. So why are you just go after him now? Like, you don't have to, it doesn't make any sense at all. It makes no sense. The physics don't exist. It's just, you can do things that are impossible, but if you can accept it, I mean, I wouldn't say it's completely turn your brain off fun. It basically is, but the characters are likable enough, and I do feel like it's gotten away from the street racing stuff, though it does bring that back and occasionally, and when it does, it's always stupid. Like, there's the race in the beginning that's like a street race, which makes no sense. It just feels like it's fan service, and when it talks about car stuff, I just don't. It doesn't. I don't know. And Vin Diesel just some of the lines he says, it's just like I don't think he has it talks longer than one sentence. I don't think it's in the entire franchise. It's always like one or two sentence phrases. That's like the extent of what he says. But I don't know. It's exactly what you expect.
Oscar winner?
Multiple, definitely. It's going to win all the Oscars.
All the Oscars.
I could see it like sound editing and like the technical awards, but that's about it. So
right. Well, I will say that Amanda just borrowed the first 6 films from a friend.
Skip the first 4. So
okay, because they're all sitting on my coffee or my table out in the living room, and so far I've avoided starting that marathon.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I mean, technically it all kind of ties together, but it really doesn't matter. It really
doesn't matter. It sounds like it doesn't matter.
Because like if you look at the character in one movie, somehow they gain magical skills they never had. It's like, now this guy has ninja powers. He's never had ninja powers before, but now he has ninja powers. No idea how that happened.
That's awesome. TFG and Mike hates us.
What are you going to do? Like I said, I like the 5th, 6th, and 7th movie, but the other 4 are just unbearable. They just really are. Especially the 4th one. Like, the 4th one is just not good. Just because the action is just terrible. I just didn't, like... I could see the ideas there, but they didn't have the budget to pull it off because the CGI is just pathetically bad.
It was definitely fun listening to the film spotting episode where they talked about the Furious 7, where they both marathoned all 7 movies like the week prior to that. Oh man, and they were coming up with the top 5 most absurd moments in the franchise.
I did not do that. So. I just watched the 3rd one, and I didn't watch any of the other ones. So it is like, there are callbacks, I will say, which it was kind of interesting. There's a lot of intricacies in this movie because there are things that happen in the 3rd movie that aren't happening till this movie. And that 3rd movie happened 10 years ago. So keep that in mind.
Keep that in mind. Sounds like you could write a lot of papers about this franchise.
You probably could. But
what else did you see?
I did get the chance to see the movie that you assigned me last time we recorded. I feel like 5 weeks ago.
It seems like a couple months ago.
But a movie I was actually hoping to pick up because it was Magic in the Moonlight, the Woody Allen film from last year. He's a rather prolific guy. He sends them all out, and it's starring Emma Stone and Colin Firth. And Colin Firth plays this magician who is sent to basically to this family to defraud Emma Stone, who is playing the part of a psychic, and she's basically extorting this family for millions of dollars. And this guy hires him to prove she's a fraud, so these people will stop giving her money because they're falling for her tricks. So it kind of goes into that, and Colin Firth is a rather, you would say, unlikable fellow. He's a magician who's rather narcissistic and very full of himself, obviously. And it's an interesting story. Like, I will say, like, when it comes to Woody Allen, I don't know, like, I've seen 5 of his movies, maybe. Manhattan, Magic Moonlight, Annie Hall, and Midnight in Paris, which I loved. I love Midnight in Paris. And I ended up liking this movie. I didn't love it nearly as much as Midnight in Paris, but I do. It's a movie that there are issues I had with it, but I guess I just liked Colin Firth and Emma Stone enough that those didn't really bother me. Like, I don't want to give anything away, but I felt like you could see where it was going the entire time. Right. And I usually don't have a gigantic issue with it, but I guess I felt the movie felt it was being more clever than it was in that aspect. But I do like their characters, and I do think I think Emma Stone it was interesting. It was seeing her in a little bit different of a light. Like she wasn't playing kind of her normal role, like her normal like spunky self. So I do hope that she does enough. I get to see her getting a better performance in a Woody Allen movie. I've seen like it wasn't anything near like Blue Jasmine level with Cate Blanchett or anything like that, but it was just getting her into something a little bit more subdued, I would say. But it was funny. I certainly laughed. Had a good humor to it. I ended up giving like a 3.5 out of 5. It's a solid little romantic comedy. It does. I think its first half is stronger than its second half, but I ended up just enjoying it enough that I was happy with the product that Woody Allen made. So
it was one of those films where I wasn't like jumping up and down about it, but when I was thinking back, it was like I although you could find like little things here and there, I was thinking about the performances, which I liked, and I was thinking about the fact that I was entertained the whole time. Like I was interested the whole time. It was never something where I was bored or something that I was, upset at the direction. You know what I mean? Even if some things were predictable or some things weren't, overall it was just a fun experience. So
yeah, I think it kind of kept things simple, which I liked. It didn't really get. It was just kind of. And I love that time period too in the music. Yeah. So I think that helped a lot which is kind of partially what I really like. It did make me think of Midnight in Paris in that way because it does kind of highlight the 20s as well. So
I think it's an intriguing premise too. Just the whole idea of trying to defraud. Like that's basically his character was known for, was kind of defrauding those types of things, and just the whole idea of that's kind of clever and interesting.
Yeah.
So, awesome. I'm glad you gave it a favorable rating. Like I said, I'm kind of right there with you. I was probably, a high 3, low 4, somewhere in the 3.5 range. So I'm kind of right on board with you on that one. I don't remember if you gave a grade for Furious 7.
Oh yeah, I gave it a 3 out of 5 because it's like I said, it's a fun action movie, but it's not anything more than that. You know what I mean? It's like right. You kind of do have to forgive a lot of logic and just science, I guess he was saying. So it's just it's a good, like, I just need something to enjoy. I think it's good in that aspect.
And I have to apologize to the class because I did not complete my homework on time.
It's okay.
So
it's okay. It's okay. You did more real life homework by going to Universal Studios and getting that.
There we go. So Dan has granted me an extension, so I will be reporting on my homework next time we record. So hopefully everybody can give me a pass on that. I guess then it's time. Did you have any other thing that you wanted to mention?
No, that's it for me.
All right, so let's get into our main attraction here as far as our actor spotlight. We did one a few weeks/months ago on Will Ferrell, and we definitely got a lot of responses from that and different people different actors that people wanted us to cover. Way more suggestions than we could possibly get to right away. So there was a lot of names being dropped. So we'll try to get to some of them here and there. But we wanted to do one that somewhat has some connections to some films that are going out. And one of the films being released this week is The Age of Adeline, which stars Harrison. Well, it doesn't. I don't know if you call it stars Harrison Ford, but Harrison Ford is in it. So we're looking at Harrison Ford. It also makes sense since he's making all kinds of headlines with every different Star Wars rumor that's coming out for later on in the year. So we're just getting ahead of the game and getting as much Star Wars related talk as we can in while we can. So we're looking at Harrison Ford, and if you remember what we did with Will Ferrell, we kind of went down, touched on the good and the bad, and we tried to come up with his top 3 films and his bottom 3 films, what we did with Will Ferrell. Is 3 enough for Harrison Ford, Dan?
It's tough. I mean, I think we've settled on 4 for...
right. We couldn't decide.
But I think Harrison Ford definitely has more than 3 good movies, but I think we can come to more of a consensus, because I think there's unquestionably 2 that go above all others, but that third one, I think there's a more of a debate.
So we're going to get into that a little bit. And do you want to, I don't know, should we start with the good or the bad on this one, Dan?
Let's go bad first and end on a good note.
That's always a good thing. I like the way you think. All right, so we'll just go kind of back and forth, throwing out some different nominees for what would be a possibility for maybe one of his worst 3 films. So I'll let you start. Just throw out a name that you're thinking of, and once we're done throwing out suggestions, we'll try to narrow it down to that bottom 3.
It's funny because the first movie I thought of when it came to bad was this movie that came out in 2010, which I actually saw in theaters. And I don't know if you saw it. It's not the major star in it, but he plays a key role, and that's in Morning Glory from 2010. It's a movie about basically the news, and specifically like morning news, like the Today Show type of stuff. And he plays like a news reporter, but he's more old school news reporter. But
I remember this.
Yes, but the issue was like the entire movie is about like why that like real news reporting is bad and like the like fluffy Today Show stuff is good, and it I don't know, it's not a good movie, and like Harrison Ford's just really grumpy the entire time, and because that seems to be like what he's become in his older age, and it's just I don't know. There's a lot of talent involved because Rachel McAdams stars, Diane Keaton is in that too, and they try to make him likable near the end, but I don't know. I just felt like its entire message I was against, and then I thought it was just a complete waste of talent. So I don't know if you saw that movie at all.
Yeah, I did see that movie, and that's one of the ones where I was kind of looking up and down his filmography, and I saw that title, and I must have just passed over it like, oh, that doesn't ring a bell with me. But now I'm glad you brought that up because I remember this movie now, and you're completely right with everything you said. This was not a good film. Currently holds a 55% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I get tired of seeing him play the old grumpy man. Like, that's not what I want out of Harrison Ford. So I think that's a great selection. I think I have to throw out one that's probably at least first thought for some people, and might have a parallel when we get to our discussion on the Kingdom of the Crystal.
Yeah.
I mean, at least it might not be it might not be the bottom 3, but it's at least in the conversation.
That's for sure. I will say.
Did you know that that's a certified fresh film on Rotten Tomatoes?
Yes, I did. It was actually rated well, and it did amazing in the theater too. So, yeah, it's interesting. And
I did not realize either of those things were actual things. Like,
I know.
I just thought everybody hated that film.
It's kind of funny with that, and it's Phantom Menace is too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. George Lucas has that magic touch, I guess.
Just like it lasts for one weekend, and then a few weeks later we're like, oh wait, no, that wasn't. What were we thinking? But yeah, I guess
the classic fridge scene.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. There's so many. There's so much wrong with that.
So I think that one's in the conversation. I don't know if it's necessarily anything to do with Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was definitely a tragedy in the Indiana Jones franchise. What else do you want to throw out there?
This is funny because this was actually on TV right before we started recording, and it's Firewall. I don't know if you saw that. It's such.
I don't think I did.
He plays like I forget I was watching it and I still didn't remember what he exactly, but it's funny because it's like right in the mid 2000s, and it was like he was a security specialist or something for technology, and I don't know. It was almost trying to
with Paul Bettany.
Yeah, it was trying to kind of like. It felt like Taken before Taken, and had like elements of like Air Force One in some ways. It felt like it was just kind of treading that ground again. It wasn't. I wouldn't say like awful. It was just so middle of the road that made it very forgettable.
Okay, so that one's out there with it. I want to throw another one in the group, and that would be, and there might be some people that like this one, but I'm going to put 6 Days and 7 Nights out there.
Oh, that's a good choice.
I remember seeing that as a younger fella. Well, I don't remember exactly what year that came out, but I want to say that I was possibly in high school, maybe. And I didn't know this other side of Harrison Ford. This film came out in 98, so I was like a sophomore, junior in high school. And the only Harrison Ford I knew when I was that age was the Indiana Jones, the Star Wars, the political thrillers, which I've just drawn a blank to. Yeah, the Jack Ryan films. So I saw 6 Days and 7 Nights, and that really hurt perspective on Harrison Ford. I didn't like anything about that film. It's currently got a 36% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's who is it? Anne Heche or
yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't want to say too much about it, but I would definitely put that in the conversation. What about you?
I agree. I would as well. And another one that kind of comes to mind too is Extraordinary Measures with him and Brendan Fraser.
Oh, geez.
Which was like, it was like they were having an overacting contest. And the loser was us. And it was just like a really like glorified TV movie, and it should not be seen by people. So
that was a 2010 film. Got 28%. Extraordinary Measures. We're coming up with a lot. This is going to be maybe a little bit harder than I thought. I'm going to throw out another one, and that would be Paranoia from just a couple years ago, 2013. Currently holds a 6% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow. There you go.
Yeah, this film was all kinds of bad. I remember being interested in like the premise and then somewhat in the trailer. So I did actually see this, I believe, in theater, and that was a mistake because it was definitely one of the worst films of 2013, and it's just kind of it's like your typical setup where there's like this innocent kind of too smart for his own good character played by Liam Hemsworth, and then he kind of gets sucked into this corporate feud between two companies, one of which is headed by Harrison Ford, and the other one is headed up by Gary Oldman. And it's just kind of where Liam Hemsworth becomes this pawn that they're each using to try to gain the other company's secrets and stuff like that. And there's so many holes in this movie that it's just very hard to get through, even if you're just trying to just like put your brain on hold and just say, okay, well, I'm just going to get entertained by this. But you can't, because it's like a thriller, and the plot's important in the thriller. So I did not like this film, so I would definitely put that in the conversation. What other ones you got to throw out there?
For bad, I think that I did not see Paranoia, but I everything I heard, I have to agree with you. I thought about Ender's Game. I thought Ender Games was okay, so I didn't think it'd be his worst. But I don't know. Hollywood Homicide, I never watched it, so I can't really say, but I
had that on my list as well.
Yeah, I've not seen that, so I'm guessing it's not very good.
No, not very good at all. The only other two I had, which I'm not sure what your opinions are on these two films or not, maybe you like them, but I put down, just to add to my list to give me some more options, I put down Cowboys and Aliens.
I'm not a fan, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I felt more... I kind of equate that with like Ender's Game around the same thing, which I think they're bad, but they're not like aggressively bad like some of his other movies.
Right, and the only other film that I had wrote down was What Lies Beneath.
I've not seen that.
Okay. So based on the ones that you threw out and the ones I threw out, is there one that's sticking up as a for sure thing for you?
Even though I haven't seen it, I'm thinking Paranoia for sure.
Yeah, it was definitely not good. Harrison Ford and Gary Oldman should be able to do something better than that. So I would probably agree with that. Any other big standouts that you think should be for sure?
I have to say Extraordinary Measures, because I felt like that is just I remember that when that came out, they like the studios even tried to bury it. Like it was just like they just didn't want to That to me stands out. Like that and Morning Glory, or like I would probably say Extraordinary Measures more for me.
Okay, so we got Paranoia and its 6%, Extraordinary Measures with its 28%. We got one other spot. You mentioned Morning Glory. I'm also thinking that possibly either 6 Days, 7 Nights. The other ones we mentioned, Cowboys and Aliens, or The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Which one are you leaning towards?
Oof, man. Talk about an option of winners. Jeez. 6 Days, 7 Nights, Morning Glory.
6 Days, 7 Nights has a 36%. Not that we're caring what Rotten Tomatoes says necessarily. And then Morning Glory is at 55. Of course, we know Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is highly rated.
I'm thinking 6 Days, 7 Nights, just because I just remember actively hating both of those characters and just wanting them not to succeed in their mission. And
100% for that.
Yeah, and I think though Crystal Skull is awful in a lot of ways, I feel like it's not. I thought Harrison Ford, it wasn't because of him; it was everything around him. So, but I feel like he played more of a role in the other movies regarding why they weren't successful.
So we got Extraordinary Measures, 6 Days, 7 Nights, and Paranoia.
I feel that's pretty strong.
All right, that's pretty strong in the worst way.
Yes.
So we're landing on those 4 Harrison Ford's worst films. So let's, like you said, let's end on a positive note. Let's throw out some of his best films. You said that you feel that there's a couple that are for sure. What's one of those?
Well, I would have to say Raiders of the Lost Ark for sure.
Okay, that was one of the tricks here that I was trying to come up with. I'm like, do I eliminate? Do I have a conversation with Dan and do we eliminate Indiana Jones and Star Wars, or do we just say one per franchise? And everybody has different favorites for Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
I saw some Twitter comments about that we'll get into a little bit. But Raiders of the Lost Ark, definitely. Probably more regarded as the best Indiana Jones film.
Yeah, Last Crusade is very close for me, but I think I used to tend to go Raiders. But Temple of Doom to me is the middle of the road with those two. But the first and the third are pretty parallel.
And I think I saw the Last Crusade at the right time. I'm not even positive that might have been the first one I saw somehow. I don't know. I have very fond memories of The Last Crusade, but I'm with you. If we were picking one Indiana Jones, I'd probably go with Raiders of the Lost Ark. Amanda also wants us to marathon those, so maybe I'll be getting some new perspective, even though I think I've seen each one of those films probably 50 times. So I don't know how much could change there. So Raiders of the Lost Ark, and you mentioned that there might be one other one that was a for sure.
Well, yeah, I guess it's Star Wars, and then the question is which one, and I would probably, I don't know, people have different favorites, but I'm kind of cliche in the end where I say Empire. But
okay. So, everybody, again, has their different favorites, but, man, that's so hard. I'd probably go with Empire, too. I'm trying to think if there's one. I'm trying to separate the Star Wars films and what I feel about them overall to Harrison Ford specifically.
Yeah.
And to thinking if there's one of those films where I like him more.
I'm thinking Empire has probably has his best line, the "I love you, I know." So
All right, so we got Empire Strikes Back and we got Raiders of the Lost Ark as 2 that possibly will be for sure. But let's throw out all the other options and see if there's any competitors. The first one that I was thinking of, we kind of talked about it a little bit in our news segment as far as a possible sequel. So let's throw the original Blade Runner at least into the conversation. If we're going along those lines. Now, we also talked about... Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say I agree. Arguably, I think you could even say there's an argument that some people would say that's his best movie, considering his best performance in his best movie. So I think that is for sure in the conversation.
Now, one of the other characters that he's obviously most famous for, which apparently I'm an idiot because I couldn't think of the name, is Jack Ryan, of course. Is there a Jack Ryan film that stands up with all these other ones?
No.
No?
I like those movies, but no.
Okay.
I guess I don't know. They're good, but I guess I like Hunt for Red October the most. But I think you can argue the other movies are like the best of all time within their genre. I don't know if I would say like Clear and Present Danger or the Patriot Games are the best in their respective genre. So I would say they're good movies, but not amongst his best of all time.
Now, if we were trying to make a list of like movies that were representative of his career, that would be a different conversation. We'd probably have to throw one out there because for a while that was kind of what he was doing.
Yeah.
With like films like Air Force One, you mentioned Clear and Present Danger, Patriot Games, Fugitive, K-19, Widowmaker, even a little bit later. Like that was kind of a whole section of his career before he went into the old grumpy man phase.
I think
we had the sci-fi adventure phase early on. So
if we were talking all those, I would probably put The Fugitive in that group, probably ahead of them all. Maybe
that makes sense.
I think I actually might like Air Force One more than the Jack Ryan movies, but it's been a while since I've seen them all, to be honest.
And then another one that's very highly rated by a lot of people would be Witness.
Yeah, that's another good one too. That's, I think, probably his best dramatic performance, or one of his best dramatic performances, I would say. So that's
now obviously some of these films might not star him as much as other ones, but this guy, I didn't realize the number of highly acclaimed films that he's been in.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to beat a dead horse with the whole Rotten Tomatoes thing, but he has a ton of certified fresh films, way more than I thought. And I'm just kind of naming them all so we can kind of just at least name drop these films. But 42 from a couple years ago is certified fresh. Actually, Anchorman 2 is certified fresh. Crystal Skull certified fresh. That seems weird to say. Air Force One, The Fugitive, which we just mentioned, Presumed Innocent, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Frantic, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Return of the Jedi, Blade Runner, Raiders of the Lost Ark, The Empire Strikes Back, Apocalypse Now, A New Hope, The Conversation, and American Graffiti, all certified fresh. I don't know what's keeping Witness from being certified fresh. It's a 91%, but it hasn't quite met the criteria that they have over at Rotten Tomatoes. Any of those?
You gotta wait a few years, I guess. I don't know.
I guess it's either it doesn't have enough reviews, or I don't know what the problem is there. It came out in 1985. Any of those that we need to add to the conversation?
Well, I think we should maybe just mention American Graffiti, because I definitely, that was kind of his breakout role, and help him land, get in the Star Wars film, because it's where he met with George Lucas. So I think that's worth a mention. And he was also, he had a small role in Apocalypse Now. It wasn't really huge. It was kind of like, I think if you're just talking movie specifically, I think that would be in the argument. But since his role was so small in it, I just wouldn't put in the conversation.
Okay, so for the ones that we've talked most strongly about, we have the one Star Wars film, if we're picking just one, the one Indiana Jones film, again, if we're picking just one, and then we had possibly Fugitive or Air Force One we talked about, and then we had Blade Runner, Witness, and American Graffiti. What are you thinking if we're trying to narrow this down to 3 spots?
I'm thinking Blade Runner. Blade Runner or Witness. I mean, I think either of those would be strong choices, but I think I feel like Blade Runner is a little bit more acclaimed. It certainly has more of a cultural impact, and I think I don't know. I feel like it fits more the Harrison Ford model a little bit. It feels weird that it's so science fiction heavy a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I think it makes sense. But I think Witness is.
Is that when he was at his best? Was he at his best when he was doing more of the sci-fi fantasy films compared to when he's doing more of like the thrillers or suspense films, or when he's doing whatever he's doing lately with the more dramatic, lighthearted stuff? I
think so. Like, I think it was when he was working also with better directors, and I think he is a good movie star, and I think he has that charisma for sure. But I think with Blade Runner, it was nothing like any of the other characters. So I don't know. I think he's best when he's a strong movie around him. Like, if the movie is not very good, I don't know if he can
hold him
up by himself. I think he's a good actor, but I think he's like one of those powerhouse like thespians per se. I think he needs like strong material, and which is why I think he works when he has strong material. He tends to knock it out of the park. Well,
right,
for the most part.
I'm going to agree with you. I would, if I had to narrow it down and only pick one, I would probably put Blade Runner in there too. So we will keep that with Raiders of the Lost Ark, Empire, or did we say Empire or Return of the Jedi?
I said Empire, but I mean...
Yeah. Empire Strikes Back and Blade Runner as our top three. I think that's a pretty good list. I don't think you can go too much wrong with those. I mean, somebody might argue that a different Star Wars film or a different Indiana Jones film should be in there. Mm-hmm. And I guess we kind of avoided putting more than one of any of those in there just for variety's sake.
Yeah.
Looking at his career as it is right now, I mean, it's pretty safe to say that his best years are over. Is there anything else that, I mean, does he hold any interest for you anymore? If his name's attached to a film, does that excite you at all?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, just because he's kind of, I don't know. It seems like it's weird. Like I felt like he's kind of run away from a lot of the properties that made him famous, but then now he's going back to them. I don't know if that's because like he wasn't as successful as he hopes to be. But yeah, he doesn't really. I just think he's had too many duds, and he's just like not been producing really well. Like he's just kind of playing that, like we mentioned, that grumpy old guy, and it's becoming a little bit tiresome. Though I thought he was pretty good in 42. I will say.
Yeah, I was gonna say I did like that role, but if he'd playing that same, that's because that type of character worked.
Yeah.
And who he was playing. But I'm with you. Like I can only watch the grumpy old man so many times, and I'm not saying that he needs to do this. I mean, I don't know exactly what his age is. He's climbing up there, and hopefully he's not hurting for money at all. But I don't know. I would have been fine if he appeared in Episode 7, Star Wars here, The Force Awakens, this December, and that was just his ride off into the sunset. Like, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. Looking at the previous Age of Adeline, I'm not holding up much hope for that either. It looked pretty awful. So I think he needs to. I think he rubs a lot of people the wrong way. So it just based upon his interviews and stuff like that, it doesn't seem like he's a very likable guy, which may become an issue when like you're not stopping him from getting the parts. But maybe like he's rumored for an Indiana Jones 5, and they might be though they might be remaking that. I don't know, but
well, and just look at the we just came up with a bottom three and a top three. If you put the years next to the bottom three and the years next to the top three, you're going to see a vast difference in when those films are coming out. So I don't think that's a coincidence. So
no.
Do us a favor, get in your Millennium Falcon without hurting yourself, and ride off into the sunset.
Yeah, I feel like after 6 days, 7 nights, it's just been kind of a downward spiral, unfortunately.
I mean, I hate that I'm ripping on one of my favorite actors as a kid, with Indiana Jones and Han Solo, like just two of the best characters I probably was exposed to at a young age, but that's all I need to see. I can just watch those over and over again. I don't need to see anything else. Mm-hmm. So, all right. So you will have to let us know, listeners, if we got it right or wrong. Do we have the right top three or the right bottom three? We did go to the Twitterverse to see what everybody thought that as far as their favorite and least favorite films. And we definitely got a few responses that was a variety of different films being touched on. I know it sparked some Indiana Jones comments here and there for sure, including about 4 or 5 people that started talking about Temple of Doom and Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls. Some Temple of Doom love out there, for sure, from my girlfriend. And I can't remember if it was Brendan or if it was... Yeah, Brennan, Temple is so underrated, but he still said, got to go with Raiders as my favorite, and then he said, favorite Harrison Ford film is 5. Don't give me episodes and numbers here. I need titles.
I get confused with that too. Wait, so no. Okay, no, sorry.
So, but yeah, so Brendan Cassidy from In Session Film, thanks for those comments. We're with you on that with Raiders, obviously, and with one of the Star Wars films. Who else said some things? We had TFG and Mike mentioned a few. Another love for Temple of Doom from Matt from Simplistic Reviews. I'm trying to get to Mike's comment to see which ones he listed. The worst films, he said Frantic, 6 Days, 7 Nights. And he also wanted Regarding Henry to be added to his best choices, which included, obviously, Indiana Jones and Star Wars. He also said that he really enjoyed Random Hearts and Air Force One. Mr. Jesus Quezada at Scanner51 talking about Sabrina. I don't know if I agree with that. But
I've not seen it, so I cannot say.
I saw it a long time ago. I don't remember it sticking that much with me. He also mentioned Witness and Hollywood Homicide. Hopefully he was talking good for Witness and bad for Hollywood Homicide. Amanda, my girlfriend, also said that she liked him in What Lies Beneath, which I must have not liked as much as she did. She also said he was laughable in Cowboys vs. Aliens, which definitely agree with that. Last one here, Carlton at Bouncing the 500. Favorite Harrison Ford film, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Least favorite, Regarding Henry. And then he goes on to say, whose thesis was brain damage will make a better man. So that has a great tweet there.
I do have one more, too. I don't know if you saw it. Ryan Cox mentioned Star Wars and Air Force One. So that's his favorite.
Okay.
So I did want to get that.
Excellent. So, and if you didn't get in on the tweets beforehand, just go to the website and let us know in the comments for this episode which ones you think are the favorite, least favorite, and if we got it wrong or right. Looking ahead to next week as far as the movie releases and as far as Blu-ray goes, a few films being released here as you're listening to this. The Age of Adaline, which we talked about, which has Harrison Ford in it, being released April 24th, which is the day this goes live. We also have The Forger with John Travolta and Christopher Plummer. We have The Water Diviner, starring Russell Crowe. Little Boy. Those are probably the biggest ones. Also, Kung Fu Killer for the Kung Fu fans out there. Any other ones that were being released that you thought were worth mentioning?
No, we mentioned Ex Machina should be going more going wide, so that if you have not seen that, I think that seems like to be the best option this weekend.
Right, and just to give you a quick, brief review so far as far as what Rotten Tomatoes is saying about these films so far, like we mentioned, Ex Machina is 89%, Age of Adaline 57%, The Water Diviner 63%, so maybe a positive review film from Russell Crowe.
I believe he directed that. It was his directorial debut as well. Yeah.
Yes. Little Boy is currently sitting at 7%.
There you go.
So maybe avoid that one. And the Kung Fu film getting some good reviews. So that one is at 82%. There's also, I believe this is a documentary, Kurt Cobain documentary, which is sitting at 97%. And I mentioned The Forger starring John Travolta. That actually beats Little Boy. That's at a 4%.
Nice.
And we mentioned this one, so I'll mention it. We mentioned it when the trailer came out, but Just Before I Go, starring Sean William Scott, 14%. Yeah. So I think you're right with which film people should see. I do want to see Russell Crowe's film, but definitely making a trip to see the Ex Machina. I can't say
Ex Machina.
I can't say it. Yeah, it just sounds wrong every time I say it. I say it and I'm like, I said that wrong, and I didn't. Yeah. But it just feels wrong. And as far as Blu-rays coming out this week and anything being released there, if you're looking for this coming Tuesday and what you want to watch, April 28th we got Accidental Love, which has Jake Gyllenhaal and Jessica Biel in it. We have the Inherent Vice combo pack, a movie called The Barber. I'm not aware of what that is. And a whole bunch of smaller stuff. The Boy Next Door, Jennifer Lopez combo pack. The Gambler combo pack, which did not get good reviews. And Paddington actually already being released on DVD and Blu-ray. It seems like that just came out.
Yeah, I think it did.
And that got really great reviews. So if you're looking for something family friendly or kid friendly, that definitely did very well at both the box office and with the critics. So a few choices there between some films that came out late last year or early this year. Anything that strikes your fancy that you're going to pick up, Dan?
Honestly, not really.
Yeah. I'm going to stay away from most of that, too. So I might watch Paddington in some way, shape, or form, but probably not going to go out and buy it. So, all right. I think that does it for today. The only thing left that we have to do is ask you guys a question. I'll give Dan a chance first to ask a question, and if he doesn't, I will try to make up for that. So, Dan, do you have an idea for a question for this week?
I guess if going back to the Robin Hood question and the Robin Hood films that we went over, if I'd be curious if anyone was interested in any of those properties, and if so, which ones?
That was what I was going to go with. See, great minds think alike. Since we didn't necessarily break it down and do a thumbs up and thumbs down on each version of it, I would be interested. If you had to get one of those versions, which one would you pick? So you have the Lionsgate, the Warner Brothers, the Disney, and the Sony version. Are we going with the Fast and the Furious one, the Pirates of the Caribbean one, the Superhero Squad one? Which version of the Origin, Batman Begins, Dark version? Which version of Robin Hood would you pick? So a great question. Are you interested in any of those whatsoever? All right, so thanks as always for joining us here on Weekend at the Movies. Obviously, you can contact us in a lot of different ways. Best and most interactive would be to go to the website, find the episode post, comment there, and we will definitely respond and reply and have a conversation about whatever you want to have a conversation about. It doesn't even have to be related to anything we talked about. We'll just talk to you.
We need to talk to you.
Visit the Facebook. Right. We need validation. Visit the Facebook page by searching GeekCast Radio Network. TFG and Mike will keep you up to date on all the different episodes and posts and things happening that are GeekCast Radio related. You can follow the network on Twitter at GeekCast Radio. You can follow me on Twitter at Optimus Solo, and you can follow Dan at...
I'm at Movie Revolt.
All right. So that is it for us. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next weekend for another episode of Weekend at the Movies.